Imagine this: you've been texting her every day, laughing, sharing playlists, sending good morning messages on. Then one day, you stop. No warning, no explanation, just silence. Now you're wondering, what's she thinking? Does she miss me? Did I mess up, or did she move on that fast? Today, we're not talking about pickup tactics or manipulation. We're talking about reality, the psychology behind what actually happens in her mind when you vanish, and what it teaches both of you about emotional maturity. When communication stops, people don't just shrug and move on. Our brains are wired for patterns. When those patterns break suddenly, the mind scrambles for meaning. In coaching men and women, I've seen this countless times. One person believes silence equals strength or mystery. The other experiences it as abandonment. That's the core misunderstanding we'll unpack through 5 emotional phases and real stories that show how each phase unfolds in the modern dating world. At first, she's not angry, she's confused. Her phone lights up less often, and she starts checking if maybe she missed your text. She replays your last conversation. Was he tired? Did I say something off? Most women don't assume games right away. They assume something happened. Maybe you got sick, or work piled up. Here's a story from one of my clients, Lena. She'd been dating a guy named Marcus for 3 months. Every night, they'd talk before bed. Then one Thursday, nothing. She waited, thinking he must be busy. By day 3, worry crept in. She even asked his friend if everything was okay. What was Marcus doing? Testing her reaction. He'd read online that if she misses you, she'll chase. Spoiler, she didn't chase. She got anxious, then disappointed. The takeaway: when you disappear, the initial confusion keeps her emotionally invested, but not for long. It's a fragile window where transparency could preserve trust. Psychologically, this is the uncertainty principle in relationships. Our minds hate unanswered questions. Silence triggers the same neural pathways as physical pain, because the brain interprets it as social rejection waiting to happen. So even if your intent was harmless, the impact lands as disconnection. Think of it like ghosting in slow motion. The damage begins the moment explanation ends. If silence continues, confusion morphs into frustration. She starts thinking, okay, if he's alive, why can't he just say that? At this point, she still cares, but her care is turning into irritation. Let's revisit Lena. By day 5, she texted Marcus, "Hey, haven't heard from you, hope everything's good." No reply. 2 days later, she wrote again, sharper this time, "If you're not interested, just say so." Disappearing isn't mature. That's frustration emotion mixed with dignity. Behind the scenes, her friends start chiming in. "He's playing games, don't message again. If he wanted to, he would." Their voices shape her next decision more than Marcus ever will. When someone you care about ignores you, you start building protective narratives. These stories aren't about revenge, they're about emotional survival. So while you think your silence is mysterious, she's rewriting the story. "He's not who I thought he was." Research in social psychology calls this attribution theory. When we lack information, we invent reasons. And usually, those imagined reasons aren't flattering. So each hour of silence nudges her closer to a version of you that's less trustworthy, less emotionally available. Ironically, the longer you wait, the smaller her empathy gets. Now comes the emotional low point: hurt. She's no longer trying to rationalize. She's internalizing. Her thoughts turn inward. "He chose not to talk to me. Maybe I wasn't enough." Even confident women feel this sting. Silence doesn't just communicate distance, it proves rejection in her mind. Even confident women feel this sting. Silence doesn't just communicate distance, it proves rejection in her mind. Here's another story. Naomi, a 32-year-old designer, dated a man for 6 months. Things were good until he hit a stressful patch at work. Instead of saying, "I need space," he withdrew. He thought disappearing would spare her his stress. What she heard was silence that screamed, "You don't matter when things get tough." By the time he resurfaced, she'd deleted their photos and blocked him. Not out of anger, but self-protection. We often underestimate how much trust silence destroys. In my coaching sessions, men tell me, "I didn't want to bother her until I fixed my situation." But to her, that absence is the situation. Silence during emotional uncertainty activates attachment triggers. Those with anxious attachment replay conversations endlessly, seeking closure. Avoidant personalities detach faster, but feel the wound later, in quiet moments. So whether she's anxious or avoidant, Silence destabilizes both types. It just shows up differently. This is why communication isn't optional. It's the foundation of emotional safety. By this point, confusion, frustration, hurt, you've already traveled through 3/5 of her emotional journey. Each stage erodes goodwill and replaces curiosity with caution. But understanding these phases isn't about guilt, it's about awareness. If you're the one who went silent, recognize that every unread message becomes a small betrayal of trust. And if you're the one who was left in silence, realize that his absence says more about his capacity than your worth. Because silence doesn't create attraction, it exposes emotional avoidance. Weeks pass, the messages stop, the notifications quiet down, and something subtle shifts. Where she once checked her phone hoping to see your name, she now scrolls without hesitation. You've moved from present tense to past tense in her life. This is the stage of acceptance and detachment, the emotional detox that follows hurt. In this phase, she doesn't wake up wondering, why hasn't he texted? She wakes up thinking, what do I want to do today? Let's return to Naomi. 3 weeks after her breakup by silence, she started joining yoga classes again. At first, it was just to fill the void. Then something happened. She realized her peace wasn't dependent on anyone else's presence or absence. One morning, she told me, I stopped waiting for closure when I realized I could give it to myself. That's detachment, not bitterness, not revenge, clarity. This stage is powerful because emotion turns into perspective. Her inner voice changes from why didn't he choose me to why did I tolerate someone who disappears. And that single shift rewires self-worth. If you try reaching out now, you might notice her tone is calm but distant. It's not a test. It's closure wrapped in politeness. Here's where most guys panic. They mistake calmness for an opening. They think, she's not angry anymore, maybe she'll take me back. But what they're seeing isn't forgiveness, it's emotional freedom. She's learned to self-regulate, to fill the silence with her own voice. And the hardest truth, once she finds peace, your re-entry feels like interruption, not reunion. Detachment doesn't mean she hates you. It means she finally values herself enough not to chase ambiguity. By now, she's not replaying the story, she's rewriting it. This final stage isn't about forgetting you. It's about integrating the lesson. She begins to grow through what she went through. Take Lena again. Months later, she met someone new, different energy, steady communication, no guessing games. She told me, I didn't fall in love with him faster. I just didn't have to heal while loving him. That's growth. Choosing connection that doesn't require confusion. In her journal, she even thanked Marcus, the guy who ghosted her. Not because he deserved it, but because his silence became her wake-up call. She learned boundaries, emotional standards, and self-trust. When people reach this stage, something remarkable happens. They lose curiosity about the past. That's when you know they've truly moved on. The urge to rehash, to get answers, fades. Indifference replaces obsession. For the one who disappeared, this can be confusing. He expects anger. Instead, he gets politeness or nothing. He texts, "Hey stranger," and gets a one-word reply or silence. Because she's no longer trying to win back what hurt her. Let's anchor this with a real-world scenario. I once coached a client, Aaron, who disappeared from a woman he genuinely liked because he feared being too available. 2 months later, when he tried to reach out, she had already started a new chapter. Literally, she was traveling in Bali, working remotely, radiant and fulfilled. He said, I thought pulling away would make her value me more. I told him, you didn't give her a chance to value you, you gave her a chance to outgrow you. That moment hit him harder than any rejection text could have. Absence doesn't create longing when it's tied to disrespect. It creates closure. Let's unpack why this pattern happens so often. Modern dating culture has glorified detachment as a sign of strength. Don't text first. Wait for them to reach out. Keep them guessing. But that isn't strength, it's insecurity disguised as strategy. True emotional confidence is consistency. It's saying, hey, I like you, and standing by it even if you risk being rejected. When you choose silence over honesty, you're not protecting your pride, you're avoiding vulnerability. And avoidance always costs connection. Think of communication as emotional oxygen. When you cut it off, both people suffocate. When you speak openly, even endings can be peaceful. That's why some of the healthiest relationships I've seen didn't last forever, but they ended with mutual respect, not ghosting. So what can we all learn from this? If you're the one who pulled away, don't romanticize silence. It doesn't make you mysterious, it makes you replaceable. If you're going through something, say so. Honesty might not be perfect, but it's human. If you're the one who was left waiting, don't chase confusion. Let their silence be your clarity. When someone shows they can disappear easily, believe them and value yourself enough to stop seeking closure from chaos. Here's the paradox. The same silence that once hurt you can become the very thing that heals you because it teaches you self-respect, and self-respect is the ultimate filter. It protects you from people who only show up when it's convenient. Maturity isn't about never needing space, it's about communicating when you do. And respect isn't about being flawless, it's about being present. So next time you feel tempted to vanish, remember, every unanswered message tells a story about your character, not your charm. Choose courage over comfort. Choose clarity over games. Choose communication because real connection requires showing up, not disappearing.